everyone. We're on.
And good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor for the Real Realtors.
Yep.
Who's this guy? That's Matt Paul.
How you doing?
He's the other Real Realtor, and together we are those real estate guys. Okay, we're going to talk and give you the real story. So what do you hear? What do you say?
Yeah, so I mean, right now it's still real busy in Western New York. So a lot of multiple offers, like we've mentioned on previous shows. It is like a second spring.
We talked about the myths last week.
Yeah,
sort of touching a little bit on some more myths out there. But so things are business as usual here.
Yeah.
Rest of the countries, there's some flux areas.
Yep.
Florida's in a state of flux. Certain parts of Texas, San Antonio, California, for different reasons. So when we talk about things, we have to always be cognizant of separating local from national.
Yep.
Okay, because they're different. Locally, we're having Indian summer.
Yeah.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Is that still politically correct?
Yep.
I don't know, but that's what it is.
Yeah, it's warm.
And because of that, I have a terrible cold. So I'm going to try and get through this. We have a lot of things going on. Events. We have an event on Friday, which is
Agents Helping Agents, collaboration over competition at Riverworks.
Riverworks, which is downtown, one of the cooler facilities in Western New York. And this is open to agents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to be EXP agents. And the theory is, since our culture is based on collaboration, we want to collaborate with people that aren't necessarily in our organization, because we believe that if we help them, they will help us, and all boats will rise with the tide.
And we can all better help our
And
clients.
it makes it better and easier for us to serve you, the consumers that are out there. You're looking to buy and sell. So
that's the first time that anyone's held an event like this.
No one's ever done it.
Nope.
Okay.
So we're excited.
And it's, again, it's a big piece of our culture, that sense of collaboration. And we love working with great agents.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
And even if they're not necessarily on our team, as long as they're good agents, we respect that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not crazy about not such good agents.
Yeah, no. But this event, hopefully some of those not good agents go to, and it levels them up.
Maybe they learn something. Maybe they learn something.
Yep.
One of the things I've often sort of chuckled at is when people want to sell their houses on their own, we call them for sale by owners. There's really only three reasons why they want to do that. One, it's just the thought that they might save some money.
Yep.
Two, they've had a bad experience with an agent.
Yep.
And three, they just don't like real estate agents. Yep. And when they say that one, I usually chime in and say, you know what? I don't like most real estate agents either, because most of them don't step up and do it this way. But a good one, worth their weight in gold.
Yep.
So, having said that, so we're going to invite all these people from all different walks of life and different companies.
Vendors too. Right?
Vendors.
Yeah, so
It's a big event. It's sort of like an event that's happening next week that the Association of Realtors is sponsoring, called Agents Day.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of vendors come out, mortgage people, home inspectors, all kinds of different people, radon people.
Yep.
And it's like a little convention.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And there's classes. There's a couple of classes there, and they always bring in a guest speaker.
Yep.
And that's an annual event. And that's been going on for about 30-something years.
Yeah,
I can remember going the first one.
We were on the committee for years together.
Yeah. It's a fun committee to be on. And I always tell people, if you want to get involved with the Association of Realtors, one thing you want to do is just get on the agents thing, because it's fun.
Yep. Start there. And
start
then go.
Start with something fun, and then you can learn the ropes about some of the other committees. Like I chair the Government Affairs Committee, which I think is a cool committee because I want to know what's going on.
Yep.
You know, and amazing you find out, unfortunately.
Yeah, ahead of time though.
But I know before I feel.
Yep. Helpful.
So there's that, and then also next week, we have a lot of our team is going off to Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Not for drinks with umbrellas in them, but they'll probably have some of those too.
Possible.
This is the annual international convention. There'll be up to 90,000 people. All 90,000 people from all around the world aren't going to be there, but there's 90,000 agents in the system. We're in 26 different countries, every state in the union. So they'll all be represented, which is good. And there's never a case where none of them aren't all there. Somebody's always there.
So, yeah.
And if I used to love talking on the international class.
Yeah.
And I got a really interesting slant from a guy that was representing Israel last year. And he told me about the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on in Israel, politically, militarily, and it's always interesting to get it right from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, so how it affects the real estate
how it affects the real estate market. They predicted the Donald Trump thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said he's definitely going to win no matter what happens.
And that was
before the election.
That was
before the election. It's like, oh well, whatever. And Donald Trump was a long shot at that point.
Yeah.
Or or they were telling us that Kamala was a shoo-in, whatever. So, which because the polls are always accurate.
Yeah, but from the outside of the country, they get different news than we do.
I love talking to Europeans about what's going on in this country. And some people, they think it's trouble. Some people think it's trouble. Some people think it's just like here. They're divided too.
Oh, yeah. But when I lived in Italy, I learned a lot about certain situations that I thought I knew about. But they're like, oh, no.
And the Italian government is bizarro. I mean, they literally, at one point, they had a porn star as their prime minister.
Oh, geez.
And we're not talking about soft porn. We're talking about the things with the it's like wild. It's like crazy. But it's fascinating.
Cultures, different cultures.
Cultures, yeah. So, and speaking of cultures, one of the things, I say, so what do you hear? What do you say? It's an old expression, a New York City expression. What do you hear? What do you say? Yeah. What do you hear? What do you say is an interesting expression because what we hear and what we say affects so many things, believe it or not. One of the things we talked about, and I mentioned it to you before we started the show today, wow, I'm still seeing this number out there, and it's very disturbing. Now, we're not seeing it here.
No.
Doesn't mean it can't happen here. But 21%, you went up from 20, 21% of places of transactions in places like Florida, those flux states, buyers are just changing their minds.
Yeah.
I want out of the deal. Yep. Boom. And they'll find a way to get out. All right, so that's better than 1 in 5.
Yep.
Not good.
No.
So let's think about that. If you hear that out in podcast land, does it affect your behavior? Well, maybe it might, because when you go to buy your house, that's going to be like that earworm in the back.
Yeah.
So what do I do to make my offer that much more acceptable? Because the seller may have heard the same thing, and he's thinking, well, I got to really tie this thing up. I'm going to look for the cleanest transaction that I can find with the fewest possibilities of someone saying, yeah, I don't want to buy this because Venus is in retrograde, or because whatever, some goofy reason. And it usually comes down to buyer's remorse.
Yes.
And that's a thing. That's a real thing.
Yeah, it's always been.
Always been. And that probably is never, but yeah.
And I think in multiple offer situations, it's a little bit higher of a likelihood with the buyer's remorse, because when some agents won't do a cap on an escalation, I've seen it where
somebody just refuse. It's not in their pay grade. They're not supposed to do it. Yeah. I'm just not accepting. Well, A, because you probably don't know how to do them.
Yes.
And B, you probably screwed one up, or maybe screwed 2 up. But it's just not part of what you do.
Yeah.
You present the offers as written. That's what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
And let whomever, meaning the seller or their attorney, figure it out after that. If they don't want to do it.
Exactly.
But and the escalation clause is one of those things that contributes to this buyer's remorse thing.
Absolutely.
And it's one of the reasons why some agents say, well, I don't want to even entertain it. An escalation clause because so many of them people change their minds. Why do they change their mind? Because this is what typically happens with some of those people that change their minds in the escalation clause. They've put in offers unsuccessfully, maybe 3, maybe 4. They're getting really frustrated, so they put a big escalation clause in there. They'll go,
I'm not going to lose this
one. We saw one the other day with $700,000 over the asking price. $700,000. I'm not going to lose. So at some point, the person that's going, $680,000 over the asking price is saying, "This is nuts, man. I'm out of this thing." They will pull the plug because they say, I acted emotionally. So just be really aware of that thing that's out there. It hasn't really impacted us a lot, but it will. But it will
eventually.
And eventually, absolutely. So let's look at ways you can clean up your act a little bit. Okay, and maybe avoid that. One of the ways that people typically will use to get out of a deal is they'll use the home inspection.
Well, attorney approval would be the first way.
Attorney approval, which is mandatory in New York State. It's not mandatory in all states, but it's a good thing.
But that would be the first time you could get out, is just say, nope, I disapprove.
Get me out. Get me out. And that's why some buyers will actually do this. I call it sending out multiple torpedoes. They'll put in 2 offers on 2 different properties at the same time. And what if they both get accepted? Well, I'll just have the attorney kill one. Okay, I'll pick the better deal. That's happening. That's legit. It's legal. It might piss people off.
Absolutely.
Sometimes sellers, agents get a little annoyed with you when you do that, but they can't prevent it. You're not breaking any laws. it's a little aggressive.
Yes,
Okay?
absolutely. And you can be under contract on 2 properties as long as you can pay for both properties at the same time.
That's
you
right.
know, so
If
there
that's
are
your
ways.
intention,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep.
But in theory,
Yeah, it doesn't work out that way usually.
Yeah, but we have that thing contributing to the people changing their minds.
Yeah.
The thing with the home inspection is when do you need a home inspection? That's really the question. Do you need one is a question, but when do you need one? I don't need one.
Yeah.
See, I can look at a property and know whether I want to buy it or not.
Mhm.
I can look at a horizontal crack versus a vertical crack, tell which one's better. I know what I'm willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. I don't know why a lot of buyers aren't at least at that level where they're willing to recognize what they're willing to do.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're buying a house and using a home inspection because you want to get the house perfect, you have just barked up the wrong tree.
Even new builds aren't perfect.
Even the new builds aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Even the new builds, which is why new builds have a little procedure where they'll give you what they call a punch list.
Punch list, yep.
Just before you close, when you do your final walkthrough or whatever, you go through and you say there's a couple of nail pops here because it always happens. The best builder, it's going to happen to.
Things settle.
And things settle, and they'll address them. But yeah, so the home inspection, the best and easiest way to avoid blowback is have the inspection done before you do the contract. A lot of people don't want to do that, but that's the way it was set up originally. If you wanted to have an inspection by a home inspector or an engineer, you did it before. That's called due diligence. But now that they've made it part of the contract, we say subject to, it changes things, and that's why sellers are vehemently saying, "Yeah, I don't want to be bothered with this crap."
It's another way of negotiating.
It's another thing. Just give me cash, 30-day close. Let me get out of Dodge. That's what they're looking for. The closer you can get to that, the better off you're going to be. The more things you put in front of that to prevent that, the worse you're going to be, and it gives people wiggle.
So essentially, the shorter the timeline, the better for this situation.
Time is your enemy in a real estate transaction. I often tell my clients, time is only good for certain kinds of cheeses and very specific red wines, like Beaujolais Nouveau is supposed to be drunk young. Okay, but some of them may want a little old. So, but for a real estate contract, it's not a good thing.
No.
The longer you go, the worse it gets, and that's why you see a lot of commercial brokers jumping out of windows. They'll go 2 years on a contract and have it before it fizzles.
I went four and a half on one,
but if it closes, you get the big check.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to Miami. So that's a thing out there. And I heard another bizarro statistic, and this is one of those things that I think can have negative repercussions just even talking about it. 54% of agents. Now, whether they're good agents or bad agents, that's not really part of the statistic, are saying that their sellers want to take their houses off the market until the spring because they haven't sold. Now, that's not here. Let me understand. That is not here in Western New York. There may be a couple of isolated cases, but in some of those not swing states, that's policy. In some of those flux states, I'll call them. They're doing that, and it's like, I don't understand that either. Typically when a house doesn't sell,
when there's a surplus of homes, that's what then I would see, right?
But okay, when there's a surplus of homes,
which is what Florida's experiencing.
They're experiencing, but we're not.
Yeah. No.
But if you were here and thinking, well, the market hasn't responded, you really have to dig deep in this one and look at yourself and say, well, why isn't it sold? Have you had a lot of showings? Oh, we've had a lot of showings.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you had any offers? No offers. That's a telltale sign.
Yep.
Have you had offers? Yes. And what was the story? Oh, they were too low. Well, how much lower than you're asking? And then you find out.
Yeah.
And then it's at that point you realize that the seller is being unrealistic.
Yes. Yep.
Because the only thing that we know for sure in that seller scenario is you put the house on the market, they marketed it, you had a bunch of people show up.
A lot of activity.
Yep. A lot of activity, but you don't have a sale.
Yeah. Yep. Something's off there.
Something's off. Yep. There's only 3 things that affect the price: location, and condition. One of them I have to take off the table unless it has wheels.
Yeah.
Because
it's not moving.
It's not moving.
It's on a foundation.
Condition. Well, if the place needs to be tuned up or straightened out, well, yeah, you can do something about that. Yep. Now, whether you want to is something else, and that adversely affects price, which is the ultimate determinant.
Yep.
Okay. Having said that, we use a tool called the Saleability Rating Checklist. It has 19 different factors on it why a house didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
And price is at the bottom of the list. There's a whole bunch of other things that could be going on. Little things, nuances, that you just weren't aware of. Simple things that can change the price of poker.
Yep.
So there's interesting things going on in the real estate market. Any hot listings out there? I may have a couple of hot listings.
You do?
I may have a couple, yeah.
Excellent. Can you talk about them?
One, I just got the call this morning. I don't know if it's going to go on now or in the spring, but 22 acres in Hamburg, Eden. It's only a mile outside of Hamburg.
Oh, wow.
Only a mile.
Is that the Eden School District then?
Eden Schools.
Right.
It just keeps getting better.
Yep.
It's on Eckert Road.
Wow.
Which is a nice road.
Yeah,
and it's right. It's easy to get to.
22 acres is a good
22 acres, beautiful.
Land.
And it's been in the family for, close to 80 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was the reason why I actually came to Western New York. Because I visited. It was my former mother-in-law's house.
Oh, there you go.
She's gone. The kids got it. And she says, I think I'm moving to Vermont with my daughter. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that'd be a good one.
That'd be a nice listing.
Yeah. And a nice house, and it's got ponds and barns with horses in it.
They have horses there?
They used to have.
Wow.
They had 4 or 5 horses. It used to have tennis courts.
Wow.
They had clay tennis. They screwed that up. They had clay tennis courts. No one played tennis.
Yeah. Well,
the neighbors, the smart neighbors, would sure, come over, play tennis. All the neighbors used it.
Yeah.
No one in the house.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's, and then, and I'm actually looking for a 4-family anywhere from North Buffalo, not the West Side. He doesn't want the West Side. But, pay up to 7.
Wow.
Pay up to 7.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to find the 4 units.
4 unit, and he's got to have a vacancy and a place to park the car.
Yeah, oh boy.
Yeah,
keep adding to it.
Keep adding to it. But so there's activity out there for sure.
Yeah. I might have a ranch coming up in Snyder, all brick ranch, really nice house, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. But I'm not sure yet.
3, 4, 5. How much?
Just under 5.
Just under 5.
Yep.
Yeah. I just threw it out casually, and it's like, sure, just under 5. We say it like it's nothing.
It's
just under $500,000 bucks.
2,000 square foot all brick ranch with, it's 4,000 square feet with the basement. It's a huge house.
Yeah, that basement thing is always fun if it's usable square footage.
Yep.
Man, you just hit the jackpot.
Oh yeah. And
if you have a walkout,
the all brick fireplace goes from the main level all the way down to the basement.
Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Schneider. It was probably built about 50 years ago.
Yep, in the 50s.
Great. They built them like rock solid back then. It probably has asbestos.
Yeah, but you don't hear a creak in this house when you walk through it. It's very solid.
Solid. Yeah, they did build things better the other day.
Absolutely.
In the old days.
Yeah, quality materials.
It's interesting, like the Sears houses. The Sears houses were, you buy them right out of the catalog. They were great houses. They were great houses. I think I've lived in a couple of them.
I sold one in Holland, and it sold for normal value.
They were just terrific houses. Yeah. And people, it's interesting how things, like when I was a kid, if something was made in Japan, it was bad.
Yeah.
Now made in China, it's bad.
Yeah.
Japanese, Japan was great. Yeah. They beat us at our own game.
Yeah.
Best cars in America.
Toyota,
Subaru, that's Japanese.
Yeah, they are too. But same with Toyota.
Yeah, Subaru, it's the official car of the Olympic U.S. ski team, which that's wrong. It shouldn't be an American. But so culture of this emission. So, all right, what else we got? That's it?
Yeah. I think that's
quick,
about
we're getting in, we're getting out. We're just telling a couple of little things. We have some interesting guests coming on in the next couple of weeks, which you want to tune in on. And we have an interesting mayoral contest coming up. God only knows what's going to go on with that.
That'll be interesting. And if you have any myths or anything that you might be questioning,
you can ask the question of the week.
Yeah, we'd love to bring it up.
And we don't have to necessarily. This came in from Sid Gluck, who's very angry. We could do that if you want.
Unanimous.
Yeah,
anonymous. Anonymous. Whatever.
Rhinoceros. You could be a rhinoceros or anonymous.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for tuning in. Please like, follow, subscribe. Let us know if we can address anything.
Like Matt Paul says, you do that because together we are those realtors, guys.
Thank you.